Hey, ladies, what is up? Welcome to another episode of the Revitalized Womanhood podcast, my Friday episode, my To the Core episode, where we talk all things four core categories. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Gina Trimmer. I am the host and creator of Revitalized Womanhood, the podcast and the women's movement, and the private coaching community, the Revitalized Sisterhood. Welcome. This episode, I usually on Tuesdays, I record with an amazing guest, different amazing guests each week, and have wonderfully unscripted conversations with these beautiful women. And on Fridays, it's kind of like my core categories, which in the Revitalized Sisterhood, our private coaching community, we basically, oh, you know what I had right here? Actually, oh, where did I put it? Did I put it away already? We had our coaching call last night. We do it once a week, and I create printables and tools for the topics that we're working on. Anyway, what did that have to do with anything? We have four core categories. We separate basically when we're doing our 90-day goal setting in our community, we separate into our life kind of so that it's less like everywhere and all the things. We separate it into four core categories, which are beliefs, bonds, body, and biz. And so, I mean, this Friday episode, it's kind of all encompassing because beliefs, bonds, body, biz, that's your entire life, right? So anything I talk about is going to be one of those core categories. Might be all four one day, who knows? Today, actually, I don't have much time. I just got done recording with an unbelievable guest. I can't wait to talk about her. Well, share her message. She's not going to be for a couple weeks though, so I don't even want to talk about it now because this episode's going up tomorrow. So I'm just don't have much time because we get to go stay at our cabin this weekend. Fingers crossed. This was last weekend. We were headed up there on a Thursday and it booked out from under us. This is why we went back and forth whether or not to rent it, to put it on Airbnb. And it's just such an amazing property. We just felt like, we were going to be out of the country. We were for 6 months last year. And we were supposed to be this whole year as well, but we decided to come home and do other things. So we are here, but we happened to think that we weren't going to be here when we finally decided to rent it out. And here we are. So now it's booked solid. It's just unbelievable. So grateful, so blessed. But like I said, it's just such an amazing property that we really wanted to share it with other people. And it's taking off. So long story long. We're going up this weekend, so I'm just hurrying and getting this message out. I didn't want to leave you without a message, and I wanted to talk about this month is Women in History Month. We're celebrating women in history, and last year we did the same thing. The topic in our coaching community, we did Women's History Month, and I extended it to saying the women who tell our stories. So not even such in a big unbelievable way, the women in history, even though the book that we each got to pick this month we picked our own, and oh my gosh, they sound so incredible. Last year they sounded incredible too. I cannot read all the books, but I have the list of these books. If you ever want them, reach out to me and I'll shoot them over to you. But one of my women is reading about from a nurse's perspective was it the Civil War? Oh man, here I go. Anyway, one of them was this woman that was this Austrian, they're all true stories. This woman, this Austrian actress back in like the 30s was just incredibly beautiful, this woman, and she was trapped in this marriage. This man that she married treated her like she was part of his collection, this thing, and like basically kidnapped her and trapped her in their home and wouldn't let her out. And she had to figure out a way out of his clutches and move to America. Anyway, just really cool stories. Another one of my members is actually reading about 4 different women's tales of how they lived their lives during, gosh, was that one the Civil War? Or maybe that one, it was even an earlier set of wars. Anyway, super cool. Super cool. It's great to look back on all of these women in history. They have these incredible stories, and it just lights a fire in me. Doesn't it just light a fire in you to hear about all of these other women, specifically women this month, but that have paved the way, right? That are trailblazers in a lot of the things they've done and a lot of the work they've done. But also in my community, I do not want to forget about the women who have paved the way for me personally, the women who have paved the way personally for you, right? Your mother, your mother's mother, your great great grandmother, your right, and on and on and on. All of these women that paved the way for you. What's the story that they tell? What's the story that they've passed down? And what is the story in the sense of the life that they lived as themselves? What story did they tell in that way? And maybe it wasn't just this situation or this incident that happened, or that they have this big invention or something that they went through, this big story, but they're telling a story still in the way that they loved their family and cared for their children. And, not too long ago, a lot of our relatives were traveling across the plains in wagons. So, I mean, there's some pretty cool stories there. Anyway, so the women who tell our stories. I have this whole thing about how Women's History Month got started, but that's super boring. I mean, for me, it's boring for me to tell you. Oh dear, someone's calling my phone. Oh well. And we've got the 3-year-old here. He may just pop in, but fingers crossed we can get through this. So, anyway, I pulled up, this is last year's. This is my monthly topic from last year. If you're curious at all on YouTube, this is what a monthly topic looks like here for us, the work we're doing here in the sisterhood. I mean, pages and pages and pages. I put a lot of work into these because I really get so excited about the topics. And then we have community learning with these, and then we get together once a week and do a coaching call together, and it's just beautiful. Anyway, Women's History Month. So this month I challenge my members and you, I'm going to extend this to you, to think about the story that you're telling every day in your life. What's the story you're passing down to your kids? What's the story you're telling the people that are in your life? What's the story? How are you living? And it kind of started with last month we were discussing mindset, right? And part of mindset is limiting beliefs and the stories you tell yourself about yourself, and the words that you use to describe yourself, or the thoughts that you have about yourself. And take a minute and think about that. Like, what are some of the things you think about yourself on a regular basis? And maybe not even the more obvious things that are like negative, like, oh, I hate my body, or oh, my nose is weird, or oh, those are things that are bad. Shouldn't be thinking those things, but not necessarily. I'm saying the things also that are not as obvious as a limiting belief, not as obvious as negative self-talk, like I'm so behind schedule all the time. I'm so behind schedule. That's a limiting belief. I can't seem to organize myself. I'm disorganized. My home is messy. These are things that don't define you. These are just things that I'm not even saying are, because those are limiting beliefs, but you having a messy house, that doesn't define you. That doesn't mean that you are a messy person. It just means that you haven't carved out the space and time to specifically sit down and work on what you need to work on to clean up your house. But anyway, so these things from the month of mindset last month have rolled over into the Women in History Month, because it's about the women who tell our stories, who have created stories for us that we now live in and live by and live through, creating our legacy and our stories for the next generations. So imagine your life as a story of a movie, and think about sitting down at the movie theater and watching this movie play out. And imagine you're watching your life play out on the screen. And would you be, I love the line from, is it The Last Holiday with Cameron Diaz? And she says, what's her name? She's opposite Jack Black in this movie. Kate Winslet. Kate Winslet says to the cute old man, she says, you should be the leading lady of your own life, right? She's made this connection that she's been the just supporting actress in her story so far. Her whole life she's just been a supporting actress. She hasn't been the leading lady. And what? Yeah, that's an unbelievable thing to realize and admit to yourself, that you're not the main character of your own story. If you are the main character of anything, it should be your own life, your own story. You better be the main character. Make yourself a character. Make yourself something that you want to pass this story on. You want people to come to the movie theaters and watch this, right? I'm not saying you have to do these big, huge things and incredible, get on YouTube and people want to watch me because my life's so fabulous. I have a helicopter and I go to fancy events. And I'm not saying that. I'm saying you as a person, what is the story that you want to pass on? What is the legacy that you want to leave your children and your children's children? And right, I just talked to this beautiful woman and she made the comment that we make an impact. No matter what, we are here on this earth. We make an impact. We are a pebble that has been thrown into the pond, and now the ripples come of this pebble, right? So no matter what, when I die, Gina's impact is still here. The impact that I have had on whoever I've had an impact on, it's still here. It doesn't disappear. The ripples are still rippling out and forever, right? So what story are you telling? Are you telling a story of negativity, of victim mentality? Are you telling a story of love, of nurturing, of motherhood, of friendship, of are you in this great romance? Is it a rom-com? Are you and your husband? I always think of Rick and myself as Sandra Bullock and Ryan Reynolds in The Proposal, and not necessarily in the beginning where she bosses him around, because that's never happened. But more like in Alaska when Ryan Reynolds finally is like sticking up to her and like showing her he's a man, and and she's like this weird, spunky, fun, so that's kind of what I'm getting at here. That's if I were a storyline. Anyway, so I challenged the members of the community last night on our call to identify who your character is. What am I right now? Gina, what is my character? What role am I playing in this story of my life, right? What am I writing the story? Are you thinking of it as a movie? I don't know who you are, what you like to do, but what character are you playing in this story? What role do you have? What is the storyline? What is the climax? So what are you trying to achieve? Are you going to achieve it? And then once you achieve it, is it wrapping up that story? And then you're going to achieve the next climax. Like these are things too, like we go through seasons of our lives, women, right? And I said to my women last night, it's so cool. If you're looking on YouTube, I'll even show you what I showed them. It's so cool that if you look at the 5 parts of a story right there, so you've got this like how the story's set up, and then characters and plot and whatever, and then it's the story's going on and telling the story, and then you hit your climax, and then you've got to wrap it up and whatever. So this is exactly like, what if this was your life? Okay, so here you are, you meet a guy, you're setting up characters, you meet a guy and you're like planning a wedding, you're dating, then you're planning a wedding, and then the climax is your wedding, yay! And then you're kind of coming down off of that, and then you kind of plateau, right? And you're living your life, and then you are leading up to the next climax, which could be having a baby, right? So our lives are very similar to a story, the 5 elements of a story, if you think of it that way. So what story are you telling? How many times can I ask this question in this episode? Should we count? I'm going to do a giveaway for whoever sends me a message on Instagram. Share this podcast episode and tell me how many times I just asked, what is the story that you're telling? And I will send you something, a really cool gift. All right, ladies. So I'll wrap it up. It's a quick one today. I'll wrap it up, but I want to just leave you with this thought and this Hypothetical question. What is the story that you're telling? Are you caught in this negative cycle of woe is me, the world's out to get me? And that I guarantee you're teaching your kids. One of my members brought up this awesome story about how a parent that she knows, this kind of attitude has absolutely now come out in the 14-year-old. And it happens, you guys. It happens. Our kids absorb everything. So what do you want them to absorb? What kind of life do you want them to now be telling? The story that they're telling in their little community of their little friendships and in your family. Do you have one of them wanting to be the victim? Do you have one of them wanting to be the bully? Do you have one of them, like, it can go either way. It can go any way. And it is up to you what it is that you're telling, what role you're playing in this story. It's up to you to make the decisions. It's up to you to live out whether or not you are the leading lady and this is you're living this dream life that you would want to write a book about, or you would want to see a movie written about, or so all right, ladies, thank you so much for your time and thank you so much for tuning in. And if you haven't checked it out yet, please, 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 if I didn't mention it enough in this episode, we are doing some amazing work in the private coaching community, the Revitalized Sisterhood. You can find the information on that and lots of testimonials from the beautiful women that are in here that are working on themselves and supporting each other as they work on themselves at revitalizedwomanhood.com. But as always, please, if you appreciate my messaging, if you love what I'm doing here in this movement of Revitalized Womanhood, the community, like the movement as a whole, women revitalizing womanhood, right? Figuring out exactly what we want it to be and not what society has told us it needs to be, or what the people before us have told us what it needs to be. It's what we want it to be. We are creating womanhood in our own terms. We are defining it in our own terms and what that looks like for each of us individually. So if you support this messaging, please like, review, rate and review. Sorry, I'm not on Instagram. Rate and review this episode and share it. Share it with other women in your life that would also love to hear this messaging. I really appreciate you, ladies. Have a great weekend and we'll see you next week.